This is a video I kind of wanted to make for a while because I quite frankly think there is a massive gambling issue and a massive sports betting issue that has emerged these past few years due to the legalization of sports betting. And listen, I'm not going to sit here and say that we should just outright ban it or that you shouldn't sports bet if that's what you want to do. I just think there's a lot of facts about this stuff that people don't know, and hopefully in this video I can help let some people know some of these facts. In this video, I'm going to get into the reality of sports betting, how difficult it is to actually make money doing it. I'm going to talk about some of the predatory ads that you might see and predatory ways gambling companies get people to gamble. I'm also going to talk about how, because of these gambling ads, they've essentially bought the media, the sports media at the very least, making it very hard for people to criticize these types of ads or companies. And at the end of this video, I'm going to offer some suggestions on how we can actually help this issue. So first, what is going on with sports gambling? Well, sports gambling has ballooned to be a massive industry in this past decade or so as it's become legalized. Every year, $150 billion is bet on sports, which is just a staggering number. If everyone in America bet on sports, it would average to around $430. Now, that doesn't mean losing that much money, it just means betting that much money, but obviously, not everyone in America is betting on sports. That's just a crazy high number, and $35 billion is bet on the NFL each year. Sports gambling has accounted for $3.7 billion in total revenue, which if you're thinking about and that's total sports betting, not just on the NFL, in America. Sometimes when we're dealing with numbers this high, it can, what am I even saying? But $13.7 billion in total revenue for sports gambling. For reference, the NFL posted $20.2 billion in total revenue. And sports gambling isn't even legal in a good amount of states. So it's not crazy to think that there could be a year where sports betting surpasses the NFL itself in terms of total revenue. The first thing I want to dispel in this video is the myth of the smart sports gambler. Because I think a lot of people think, well, hey, I watch a lot of sports. I watch a lot of football. I watch Jackson Krieger sports in my free time. I could be able to make some money gambling, right? I mean, sure, the casino's going to take a cut, so it's not really like 50% of people make money gambling. But maybe if 60% of people lose money gambling and 40% win, maybe I could be in that 40%. That is not how this works. In fact, I've seen estimates from 5% all the way down to 0.5% of people that spend money gambling actually making money. In fact, the average amount of people that make money who are currently still betting is still just 5%. 95% of people that currently bet lose money. The house always wins isn't just an expression, it's a reality. And keep in mind, with those small numbers, the vast majority of people who do make money sports betting aren't necessarily even sports fans. It's more of a math thing about figuring out the odds and comparing different sports books. It's less to do with the actual, I think Baker Mayfield's going to have a good day. That's not really how you make money. That's actually one of the main reasons I wanted to make this video, is because I think a lot of people don't realize that about sports betting. They think if they're smart at sports, they will win money by betting, but that's just not how it works. You don't make money gambling on sports by knowing a lot about sports. The reality is, if you bet enough times, no matter how smart you are, you will lose money. Because that's how it works, right? The house is consistently taking a cut, and if you're betting, thousands of times, even if you're hitting a decent rate because of this cut that the house takes and because you're consistently putting money in, you're eventually going to come out behind instead of ahead. And of course, you might not actually be a sports genius the way you think, and so it might actually be more difficult to even hit that 50% threshold, let alone more than that. This is also why live betting can be so dangerous, is because the more you're betting and the more bets you're putting in, the less likely you are to actually make any money back. Now, all of that in itself is okay. If you know that going in, hey, I'm paying for my entertainment, I'm not going to make money here, this is just for fun, that's cool. Like I said, I have no interest in telling you what you should do and what you shouldn't do. I've bet before. I think it can be a way to make a game more entertaining. There are times when, there's a baseball game I know I want to watch, but I don't really have a huge rooting interest. Maybe it's a game 7 or something. Okay, I'll put $10 down on a team to win. Now I care about the game. The game's going to be more fun. I think all of that is cool, but that's really how gambling should be viewed. You're not going to make money doing it. And I think if you asked a lot of gambling companies, is this a way to make money? They would tell you no. This is a way to have a good time. Sure, some people make money and they might, pump that up a little bit, but I think they would tell you kind of what I told you. It's about entertainment. But who wouldn't tell you that is the advertising. Like, let's take a look at this FanDuel ad that has Eric Andre, which does a really good job at displaying what gambling companies want you to think when you sign up for their app.
And this is your surprising hunch. Carolina! And with FanDuel's easy-to-use app, you can act whenever it speaks to you.
So see, what happened there is just completely different than what we were talking about, right? It just is. That's not how gambling works. You don't have a hunch, then on a whim, press it and then make money. That's not what happens. You lose money when you do that. Especially Carolina. Really? That was the team you chose for this ad? I don't know. But you see that a lot with gambling ads. It's, if you have a hunch, you should bet it. And look at how much money you could win if you gamble. Things like that. And I suppose you could argue the lottery does something similar. But at least when you play the lottery, your odds are ridiculously small. With sports betting, people just assume that their odds are higher. Which, again, you're allowed to sports bet. Not trying to tell you can't. However, if you're trying to actually make money, then you're not that much worse off just buying a lottery ticket. Except that's not what they want you to think, given their advertising. And another thing they do with their advertising is they almost exclusively advertise deals to people who haven't gambled before. Make no mistake about it, the goal of these advertisements is not to get people who like gambling and enjoy it to continue to like gambling and enjoy it. It is instead trying to get people to start to gamble. This is a still image from that ad that I showed you. New customers bet $5, get $300 in bonus bets if you win. You've seen a lot of variations of this, some even better than that. Some will just tell you straight up, hey, if you bet $5, you'll get $300 in free bets, things like that. But why are they able to do that? How are they able to do that? Well, let's talk about how that actually works. Because you might think, okay, I could bet $5, get $300 if I win, and then just cash out and have my $300. No, that's not how it works. So you would get $300 in free bets, which means you have to bet that $300. Okay, that makes sense. It's like credits, right? Like a gift card, understand. But let's say you bet $50 6 times and you win 3 of them. In theory, okay, you have a little bit less than $300 now since the casino gets a cut, but okay, now you can cash out. No, you can't do that either, because on the 150 that you won, you can't cash that out because that's still free bets. You don't get that money. So you have to keep betting that until you lose it. So you're going to continue to bet that way. Now, usually, if you just bet that money until you lose it, you can come away with some money. Let's say you made $200 out of the $300 of free bets. Not great for $300, but given the fact that it wasn't your money, you've still made money. You can cash out and you're good. The issue is people tend to not cash out. People are often a lot more quick to deposit than they are to withdraw. In fact, some people might see the $200 and say, well, I would have liked to make the $300. Maybe I'll see if I can try to make that back. And hey, it's still essentially free money, right? I haven't paid for, it yet. So let's see if I can, I can make it work. And then you continue to bet, and then you get hooked on it and spend a lot more. Again, nothing inherently wrong with the promotion, nothing inherently wrong with taking one of those promotions, but if you don't know what you're doing going into it, you could find yourself actually losing money even with something that seems on paper like an amazing deal. One other thing I want to talk about, and part of why I wanted to make this video, is the reality is, basically every sports YouTube channel and every sports program is sponsored in some way by gambling companies. How often have we seen these sports betting things pop up on our screen, right? I wouldn't be shocked if, in fact, I almost am convinced that for some of you, a sports betting ad will play in front of this video. But because of that, there is a massive conflict of interest, right? I'm not going to sit here and say that, there's a lot of good reporters out there, great sports reporters out there that would still report an issue even if their company is getting paid by a sports betting company. But it's still a conflict of interest, and gambling companies paying so much money to the sports media essentially allows it to control the sports media in many ways. Me personally, who I don't consider myself a huge YouTube channel or anything, like, I have been approached from gambling companies to advertise their companies. If I took one of those ads and that was now a big part of my income that I relied on, I would be less likely to make a video like this. Like, that's just how people work, right? And I was curious about this. So I did a Google search for NFL gambling problem. That was just something I did to research for this video. And I was interested in seeing how many sports media companies actually talk about the things that I'm talking about here. Well, the first thing that comes up when you Google it is the SAMHSA National Helpline. So that's cool. It's definitely not nothing, and that is worth noting, although it's not a media company talking about that. Not a sports media company that talks about that. That's just their website that comes up. And there were some news articles and Reddit posts talking about the exact issues that I was talking about. But for the 10 sports media articles that first came up, 8 of them were simply just talking about gambling as it relates to the integrity of the game. Could refs be, in on the action type of stuff, or the Calvin Ridley thing, things like that. The other 2 was the NFL praising itself for working with the SAMHSA National Helpline, which, again, isn't nothing. Gambling addicts it's a real thing, and it's an issue, right? But it's also only one part of the problem, right? If you were at a high school football game and they advertised beer and then afterwards said, oh, but here's where a rehab center is if you need it, you wouldn't feel great about that, right? And to me, that's kind of how I feel as well. It's not nothing, something they should be doing, but I think there's more that they could be doing. And the reality is, I just did not see a single ESPN, NFL, any of that kind of article talking about what I'm talking about. Plenty of news stories have touched on it, but no, and again, I'm not saying there hasn't been any, because I can't scrub the whole internet, right? But I was not able to find some, even when I was actively looking for one. I've touched on a lot of the getting people hooked on it in the first place aspect of it, but let's talk about when you are hooked on it, why there's another real issue with this. It is a really difficult thing to quit any addiction, but especially sports betting or a gambling addiction in general, because part of why you feel like you want to keep going is one of your potential ways out can be to, win your next bet, right? For all you know, the next bet was finally going to be the one that you hit big and made all your money back. When you're an alcoholic, there is no next drink that could allow you to, get back in shape and have all the health issues go away. Alcoholism comes with its own set of issues, but for gambling, that is the biggest hurdle you have to face. And with the way that these sports betting companies operate, it's nearly impossible for someone who has a gambling addiction to clear their head, because there are constantly advertisements going on, not just in sports in general, but in other shows as well, although especially in sports, they're just all over the place, which is a constant reminder of what you can do. And unlike with a beer ad, for example, where you would have to still physically leave where you are, go to a different place and purchase a beer or purchase alcohol, if you're a gambling addict, all you have to do is pull out your phone and make a bet, and now you're back sports gambling again. In other countries, they've created things where you can essentially disable sports betting from your phone, get rid of all of those apps, and maybe even have it set to a passcode that a loved one could create for you, so that way you don't have to worry about potentially, if you do see the ads, you can't just make a bet. There is no way to do that in America currently. Another issue about all this, and this is a small thing, but still something I wanted to bring up, is that sports gambling essentially has a great promotion because people are essentially inclined to lie about the product and say it's better than it is, right? And I'm not talking about if you're getting an advertisement check from FanDuel or whatever, but just in general, people lie about their winnings. At least kind of in some ways. I know for myself personally, there was a year where I made a lot of small bets and I actually made money gambling. I don't really gamble that much anymore at all, to be honest, but there was a point when I did come out positive betting, and what did I do? I bragged about it. I said, hey, look everyone, I'm so smart. I made money betting on sports. It's because of how smart I am, right? Except I didn't cash out. I had technically made more money than I put in, but I never cashed out. And then the next year I proceeded to blow through all of it, and I was much less likely to tell people about that part than I was about the positive. A lot of people brag about their winnings and do not talk about their losses. In fact, I know multiple people who, like, I can just tell that they're lying about their sports gambling stuff. Like I know people who would be like, oh yeah, I've won like my 10 biggest bets. I've happened to hit on all of them. And then I'll ask, how did they know? And they'll say the dumbest answers like, oh, well, I saw Baker Mayfield walking in and he looked so confident. I knew he was going to win. It's like, that's not smart. That's not how you can know that you're going to win a sports bet. But somehow people will say, yep, that was my logic. I've won all my big bets and never lost a big one. It's because you don't want to admit that you lose the big bets. That's embarrassing, and winning bets is cool. It makes you feel like you're smart. But again, as we've been over, people don't make money by being smart about sports betting. People instead either get lucky or kind of game the system with math, and if you game the system with math, usually you get banned. So okay, those are the issues that I personally have with sports betting. So what do we do here? Like I said, I don't think sports betting should be banned. I think that if you're someone who says, hey, this is just added entertainment. It's like fantasy football. It's a reason to care about a game that I otherwise wouldn't have cared about. I know if I make enough bets, I'm going to lose money, but it's still entertaining for me because sometimes I see the number go up and sometimes the number goes down, and it makes it exciting for me. Okay, cool. I'm not trying to get in the way of your good time as long as you know what you're getting into. But I think the first thing we have to do here is just continue to educate people. And unfortunately, like I said, a lot of these companies might not be too inclined to educate people. They want the big gambling checks. So you just got to make sure that the people that do turn down gambling ads make videos like this and talk about these issues and just let people know, hey, you're essentially buying a scratch-off ticket, which can sometimes be fun, but that's what you're doing. Go in with a healthy mindset, right? As for the NFL's role in all of this, personally, I think that they are in part to blame. I don't think that they should allow these gambling ads, period. I know there's a ton of money. Again, we're talking about the sports gambling as essentially as big of an industry as the NFL is. So yeah, that's a lot of money you have to turn down. But the NFL isn't exactly hurting for advertisers, right? I think you could just not allow gambling ads. At the very least, I think what they could do is put out some anti-gambling PSAs during the games. Because again, saying here's the national helpline, that's not nothing, but that only does so much. Having someone say, I came into this thinking I watched a lot of sports, thought I would make a lot of money. Turns out I didn't know what I wasn't able to stop, and because of that, I lost a lot. Could help people think twice, and again, not necessarily not sports gamble, but go in with a healthier mindset. I also quite frankly think it's not just the NFL. I think creators shouldn't take these ads. I've turned them down. You can too, right? And I get that for some people, smaller channels don't make as much money. I get it. I'm not going to judge any individual for doing it. But by and large, I think that, people should be less likely to just take whoever is advertising for them. Especially, there's people who make a lot more than me who definitely do not need these types of ads, who could be turning them down. I think those people should turn them down as well. Now, they probably get offered a lot more than I get offered, so I can understand why you might be more likely to say yes. But nonetheless, it's something that I think that people should be more likely to do is turn down a gambling sponsorship. And for you personally, what can you do if you're watching this video? I think you can help pressure people who take gambling ads, right? If you see a video that promotes gambling, you can call the content creator out. Or even you could post some facts that I've mentioned in this video in the comments. Post how unlikely it is to actually make money, so that way when people see the ad and say, oh, that seems fun, then they can read the comments and say, oh, okay, maybe it's not quite as cool as I thought, but maybe I still want to, maybe I don't. It lets them have the information to make the decisions that they want to make. As for some bigger fixes that, I don't know if everyone's going to agree with, but just for me personally, I think a couple things should be just regulated. For one thing, I just think gambling ads should be at best restricted and at worst just outright banned. Similar to how cigarettes are. I think that there should be some heavy restrictions on this stuff because the reality is people just don't realize how harmful it can be. As for other fixes, I think one thing I would also bring up is I kind of like the idea of just making it illegal to have a sports gambling app on your phone. I think that if you want to bet on sports or bet in general, you should have to go to a physical place to bet. That can kind of take away the easy access gambling that almost always results in horrible things happening, and then you're actually making it an activity where you can go and you can do other things while you're there, and it can, help out the economy instead of just sink money into billionaires' pockets, right? So I think something like that would work better. But in the meantime, I think another simple fix is for these phone companies to make it easy to disable gambling apps on your phone, because that way it could at least help out for people who do currently have a problem. Little things like that can help. So those would be some potential fixes for a problem that doesn't really get talked about a ton, in my opinion. But yeah, those are my thoughts on sports gambling, why there are some positives for it, but why I think there's a lot of negatives that we really need to address if we're going to be doing this, because it seems like we're not putting the toothpaste back in the tube. Sports gambling is going to be legal, so we got to pay attention to how we're doing this kind of thing. But that's what I think about all of this. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.